Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Hi, and welcome to the Encounter program. I'm Reverend Rachel Helgeson. I'm the pastor at Northminster Presbyterian Church, and I'm so glad that you are with us today. You're probably looking around and saying, well, that's not WBNG Studio if you're on TV, or if you're listening on the radio, probably like, well, I don't know where you are, but I'm so grateful that you're here. In both of these situations, yes, we're recording from my home to your home, and I have some other folks who are calling in from their homes across the country. So this is a unique opportunity because we are so spread out that I can call in some of my colleagues to talk to you from Wisconsin and from California, right here to the southern tier in New York. So I'm really excited to share them with you in a moment. I'm also really grateful for the Broome County Council of Churches for what they have been doing to make this possible as a mission and ministry to you in partnership with WBNG and Town Square Media. So thanks be to God for that. And our topic today is on self-care, and you're probably wondering, whew, how do I do that right now? And we'll talk about that, and we'll probably say, yeah, how do you do that right now? And here's some ideas and here's some thoughts, but it will go all over the place, which I appreciate. My colleagues are Reverend Katie Hatvelig, and she is calling in from California, from San Diego, and she is a chaplain, and she works in palliative care with the UC San Diego, so we'll hear a bit from her. And also my colleague from Wisconsin, Reverend Kathryn Craven with the Presbyterian Church USA, who has a different situation as she has recently moved and is now figuring out what that all means, and in between, as many of you, I'm sure, are figuring out what these new in-betweens look like. So I'm going to change our view for those of you that are on television, for those of you on the radio, keep on listening so you'll be able to hear us and see us. Welcome. I'm so glad you both are with me today. So self-care, what do you think about that?
It's such a big topic and an important topic. And I have to admit that I'm not very good at it all the time, or most of the time. I think it's a hard one to do. As a palliative care chaplain, I work a lot with grief and a lot with end-of-life issues. And grief is really high right now, even in my own life, as just life itself has changed. And I miss being able to get out and being with friends and going to church and all of those things. So self-care is important. One of my favorite self-cares, at least today, is having a good cup of coffee, making time for that, as all of us. But yeah, self-care for me right now, because I'm working at home and also in a clinic, and I also have a 4-month-old at home, I have to actually have structure. I'm not a very structured person, but self-care for me is having a list of things that I can get done during the day, and then giving myself grace if they don't get done. But just something that helps me know, okay, when I get up, this is what I'm going to do. Otherwise, I flounder.
Yeah. And how about you, Kathryn?
Self-care is yeah, I'm at a different place. I do have coffee, and I bought myself a milk frother, which is like a little blender for your milk, right? It's way too exciting. It's honestly, that's one of the ways that I've been taking care of myself, which sounds weird. I am currently stay-at-home mom. I have a 4-year-old who, of course, is out of preschool. My husband works. He still has his full-time job. And so for me, self-care is getting through the day and figuring out a way to do so slightly graciously. I think I need to take inspiration from Katie's list. The other day I threatened to put, for myself, to put a chart up on the wall of the things I need to accomplish and to put down stickers when I actually finish things. Yeah, that worked really well with the youth group I led forever ago, for good behavior. But honestly, I'm just trying to maintain some kindness, and try to let my kid know that I love her. And I've just started exercising again to tell myself that I love myself. But like, my standards are pretty low right now. Like, take a shower every day. I usually actually do wear real pants. I don't know why. And just be kind and don't lose it on anybody. Especially my daughter, because she's 4 and she's wonderful, and she's a copy of me in a lot of ways. So I get to be patient. My self-care is just trying to be kind, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really important to hear both sides of that. You know, some of us really need to have some sort of structure that we can just hang our hat on and know that it's okay if things don't get done. Some of us are just like, you know what? Check, adulting today. I woke up, check, I took a shower and I don't smell. Check, I made some coffee, and I'm being loving to the people that I love. So I think those are both really valid things. And they sort of interweave. I know I also have young children, and my daughter is in kindergarten and my son is 2.5. And so my daughter's getting homework and my husband is at home teaching, trying to teach full time. So it's been an interesting juggling of all of our things that are required of us while still having to live into what's now. So how do you take care of yourself? And how do you take care of the people that you love? You know, how are you all connecting with people that you love in your spaces and places?
For me, I live far, far away from all of my family. My family's in the Midwest, and we are in sunny California. And I love technology for that reason. It's given me a chance to connect with family. My parents can actually see my son, and we can connect that way. Although my parents are not the most technically savvy, and so sometimes the best way for me to connect with family is to pick up the phone and call we still have the phone number that is for a phone, not a cell phone, but like a in the house phone. But just to connect that way. I've also have noticed some of my older family members love letters. And so if I can even just pick up a card and send them a card, I'm not very good at that. I miss the letter writing scheme of things, but sending them a card just to know somebody's thinking about them is great. I have a good friend who is 90, just turned 90, and is in a senior living center, and nobody can visit them. And so to just shower them with love from afar is challenging, but I kind of like it because then I can be creative and figure out what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I always am amazed by people who are letter writers that they can do that. And there's some apps out there for those of you that are more tech savvy and not letter writers that you can write and they'll send it for you. So, but how about you, Kathryn? How are you connecting with your loved ones? I know you're in a different situation.
Oh yeah. So my family is my personal like birth family. We're kind of a unit. So when we moved up here, my parents moved up here, and they live 20 minutes away, but they're in a retirement home, and they can't leave. So with my parents, it's how do you? Because Lily used to see them every day, for several hours probably, and so we've gotten in touch with having phone calls through a window, doing speakerphone through a window, and we've they like to do phone calls more than I do. So we do, but Lily likes to do not video chat, but like to send them a video. After trying to figure out for an entire day how to send a 3-minute video that she took, we downloaded this app that you can put on a phone or a tablet called Marco Polo, like
Best
the
app ever.
pool game, right? I'm gonna Marco Polo you someday, Katie. Sorry. And you can just you open it up, you press the name of the person you're conversing with, and you press start and you talk, and then when you're done, you press stop and it sends. And so I've gotten about, in the last day, I think I've gotten 8 messages from my parents, and I've sent one. But it's a good outlet for them too. My husband's family, his parents are in Kansas, and so we do texting with them, and we do some texting and phone calls with his adult kids, my husband's adult kids. And one of the things that's interesting right now is that my dad's one of 11 kids. He's number 5, and his brother, who's number 6, they grew up basically like twins. There were no twins. Really, really close together. He actually passed away a couple days ago. And so how do you go through the family communications? How do you go through the grief? And my aunt asked if my dad would come down to be with him at this time. And if my parents leave their building, they get evicted. But how do you go through that is a really, really active thing. And my uncle didn't die from our current pandemic. I think it was heart. But everything has changed. So how do you go through the mundane, I need to see you, and then how do you go through everything in life just readjusted, and I'm in a lot of pain. And I know, Kate, you deal with a lot of the palliative end of life stuff too, with the drastic changes that occur.
And I think that's been the hardest thing for patients, and even for me, is they don't get to have as much time with their loved ones at the end. And I know a lot of patients, they just have this worry and fear. If they get into the hospital, are they going to see loved ones again? And it's hard to live our everyday life with that fear and worry and anxiety. And there's things, one of my patients mentioned this, and I thought it's so true. I've never been afraid of people before. I love people. I'm very much social. But now all of a sudden I'm really hesitant to be near people I don't know. And what an interesting, just weird time that we live in. And I love that we're talking about self-care, because all those emotions we carry with us, and they build up and build up. And they can cause us to feel, I know the VA has been doing studies that we can actually get PTSD symptoms from just living life in the midst of this pandemic. So I'll do my Chaplain plug. Make sure you're sharing what emotions you're feeling with your family members. My husband doesn't like talking about feelings. He thinks those are for other people. He's military. But we make sure to spend time. Okay, how are you feeling today? And I actually did put up a feeling chart on our kitchen wall, so we can just go and say, I'm feeling frustrated because I haven't seen people in a while, or I'm feeling really sad because Easter came and went and it never felt like Easter, or all these different things.
That's a great idea about a feeling chart. I always think about that with littler people, but I mean, as for bigger people, sometimes we don't know how to articulate the things that we're actually feeling, or aren't ready yet to say it, right? So to honor the space that it's okay if we're sad, it's okay if we're happy, it's okay if we're just feeling frustrated and annoyed about the whole situation, that's okay. Like I think sometimes, especially as adults, we're taught to push that down instead of, like, at least I know with my children, they're like, when they're feeling that. And I know that they may not have the words for it, but at least right, it's happening. So, I'd like to, for those of you that are coming in on our radio station and just tuning in with us on the TV, I'm Reverend Rachel Helgeson. This is the Encounter program. And today we're talking a little bit about self-care. I have some folks who are joining us from across the country, which is a treat for me to be doing this with you, from my home to yours and from their homes in California and Wisconsin. Both are ordained pastors. Reverend Katie Hatvelig is in California, and Reverend Kathryn Craven is in Wisconsin, and they both have different situations that they're speaking to. But I think that this is helpful for us as we consider what does that look like with our self-care in our own situations without beating ourselves up about it, but to be able to have some more resources, and also to know that our life situations may be different based on employment, based on loss of other things in our lives. So I'm going to bring them back in so you can hear from both of them, because I'm really enjoying this conversation with both of them, and hearing from them what that means, particularly in our faith life, and how that sometimes can be complicated or can sometimes just be an anchor. So I'm curious where you all find yourselves in that. I particularly bring that up since this is the Encounter program and our viewership is a lot from the Abrahamic traditions, but not limited there. And folks are, some are gathering back in and some are trying to figure it out. So what do you think about that in the midst of self-care as well? I'll start with you, Katie.
I'm going to admit I'm a pastor and I love God, and spirituality at this time can be hard because my go-to when I get overwhelmed or feel a lot of these emotions, I want to just shut down and in a way not feel anything, which is, it's hard to feel close to my God and all of that in the midst of it. So some things that I've found helpful have been just doing some mindfulness practices. My favorite one, I love doing breath prayers. So I think of my favorite Bible verse or favorite thing. Emmanuel is my favorite about God, that God is with us. So I breathe in thinking about Emmanuel, God with, and then I breathe out those that just the worries, the fears, the anxiety, all of that. Or if I'm too amped up to be able to do that, then I really love naming 3 things I can see, 3 things I can smell, 3 things I can hear, and you can also do 3 things you can taste if you want to add chocolate and other yummies into the mix.
Who doesn't? Really?
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
And that just helps me as like when I'm feeling overwhelmed or out of control, or there's just nothing I can control in life. It gives me a little bit of a break. I can come back to who I am and reconnect and know that I'm not alone. For me and my belief that God is with me in the good times and in the crappy times and everything in between.
Well, thank you. How about you, Kathryn? Where do you find yourself in all of this?
Well, I find it interesting that Katie was talking about that you started off saying that like you have a tendency to just like, I don't know when to shut down or to not participate or, okay, so that's where I am. I've been ordained for a decade, and I'm not serving at a church right now. I was supposed to start a job as a hospital chaplain, and then COVID delayed that. So I've got pretty dresses and nowhere to wear them. And I'm working on giving myself grace for not participating. We just moved here a month before lockdown. We moved here in February. And so we didn't find a church community, and I have a bunch of friends who are ministers, and I feel really guilty that I'm not going to like everybody's Sunday morning worship online. But it's not feeding me right now, or for whatever reason I don't feel a compulsion to do that. I know that my parents who are retired ministers, they like to, in our tradition, we have a daily prayer book. It's actually not used very much, and you don't have to be a minister to use it at all. But it's got different prayers for the days of the week, and it takes you through the scriptures of the year. And I know they like to do that, not every day. And we're dorks, so we give each other hymnals for birthday and Christmas presents. So they usually sing a hymn or 2. And they've been having conversations about the scriptures with my aunt and uncle in Arizona, which is weird, but good. So that's the level of participation. But in thinking about, I love I mean, I love God. I love Jesus. The Holy Spirit is my girl. I feel closer to her than any of the other in the Trinity, just the ever-present pushing force that's comfort, but also is going to kick you out of the nest when it's time. And I guess a spiritual practice that I've developed, which sounds really weird, but go with me. We live in Superior, Wisconsin, which is right next to Duluth, and Katie went to college here. And so we have big ships. It's a very active port. And so I love things that remind me that I'm small. I was born in Southern California. I went to seminary near San Francisco, so I would go visit the ocean when I was feeling overwhelmed by humanity. And so I've kind of developed a bit of an obsession with the big ships because they are like large, calm, comforting beasts. Like, I really think of them as living creatures. And so when I get too stressed out, like, I have been known to start crying and drive to stare at a big ship to calm myself down. We have apps on our phone, and we look up at the computer, and we're about 2-3 blocks from the harbor. And we go and we visit them when we see who's important, who's not important, or we'll go and we'll watch for half an hour as one slowly pulls in. And like, it's this weird, I'm not saying that the big ships are God. That's not what I'm saying. But it's in the crush of the mess that is humanity right now. It's really nice to be tiny and to find something that's slow and constant. And sometimes I can hear their horns blow from our house, and we can watch videos of them online, and we can watch live cams all over. And so, honestly, as weird as it sounds, like, that's almost a spiritual practice for me at this point, because the words don't fit right now for me. The words of the liturgy for me aren't talking to me right now. So I'm filling in another way. I feel like I just went very weird right here, but
Kathryn, one thing I love that you said is that you just are giving yourself grace. I love that. And a counselor I'm working with, they said that's one of the most important things we can do during this time is practice self-compassion to one another and ourselves.
Yeah.
Which you're doing beautifully.
Yeah, I was also thinking, like, from scripture, one of as someone who's a Christian pastor, I was thinking about this. The anchor is actually a Christian symbol.
Yes.
I'm going to end up with an anchor tattoo, aren't I?
And I'm doing some research currently actually on All Saints Day, and one of the things that they talk about is how God is in the calm of the waters, and that it overcomes, particularly in apocalyptic texts, in Daniel and in Revelation, about the calming seas of water. And so for our context in upstate New York, that speaks because we live close to Lake Ontario and the Finger Lakes. And so I know that folks in this area would really resonate with what you just said, like being able to just sit by the water and see God's creation. And I'm thinking particularly, again, in Christian context, about the waters of baptism. Where was Jesus in the waters of baptism?
And it's not changing. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
And it's not changing either. So if we need one thing in our life that's not changing, that's constant, that water, those lakes, and where I'm at, the ocean, the waves just always come in. They won't stop. It's just it's a beautiful reminder that God gives us.
Well, and in your context, in upstate New York, I've moved a lot in my life. So I actually graduated from high school near Utica, and that is where I learned to love driving. I know not everybody can leave their houses right now, but I would like borrow my mom's car and just drive through the forests, drive through all those back roads. And I've never quite gotten that love back. I still love driving because it's power, but just to do something that gets us in a different headspace. I've been super compulsively reading, and like not good, important, improving the quality of my mind stuff. I just read all the time. And at this particular point in existence, I don't think escapism is the worst thing that we can do. Just anything to distract. I don't have it with me, but oh yes I do. This is my e-reader. It just is time to travel because I need to get out of my own head, and also I live here in ships. But
if you're on the radio, it's a really pretty time to travel. And then there's a ship, sailboat that's in black and white, and even if you could see that, you can almost feel what's happening in the water, what Kathryn just showed. So, it's a good reminder to be able to say, like, where is our space to travel, if we physically can't do it the way we were able to do it before, and how is God in that space, and what is constant in that. So we're sort of coming up on time, and I'm just really grateful for my two colleagues, and being able to speak with me from their places and space. Locally, the Mental Health Association of Southern Tier is one option if you need space for that. If you need to contact someone, there are churches in the area. You already know that I'm a Presbyterian church, so I'm going to, of course, put a plug there, but that is not the only place you can do that. And the Broome County Council churches and United Way have resources as well. If you need something, you can call 211, or if you're having mental health things that you need to deal with, 311 is the new number in New York State that you can call directly. But I want you to know that you are not alone, that God is with you, and that in this time of uncertainty, there are a number of ways that you can anchor yourself in. I love that image. Whether it's in just saying, here's a schedule and I need to follow it, and giving yourself grace if you don't finish it. If it's just sitting outside and observing how the waters are around you, or letting seeds grow, even if they don't do it perfectly like mine. But to know that God is in that too, not in the perfection, but in the act of just recognizing who we are in the midst, and that there is space for that, even if we are separated and things have gone way differently than we could ever have expected. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. And so I thank you, friends, on Encounter. We're so grateful that you're able to tune in with us at the Broome County Council of Churches. God bless you and be with you, and may your peace be with you in the midst of all the things that come forward. Thanks.